I think we should start with a physique check, since modern society really cares about the physique and not really about the health of the organs, the efficiency of the cells, or anything else for that matter. This is how I look. I train calisthenics a few times a week. I've been training consistently for a few years. Some periods have been gym periods, some periods have been calisthenics periods. I am flexing my abs right now. This is how I look if I don't flex. Alright, this is going to be a very low dopamine video. If you have a bad attention span, this is going to make your attention span better. Now, before we start getting into this stuff, I've written down a bunch of things that I want to tell you that are going to be very beneficial. There are a few things. I speak to you as a close friend. Okay, I'm only speaking to you. And I'm not going to lie in this video. I will not tell a single lie in this video. I hope you can trust me when I say this. Yes, while it is true that I do have a book that I sell, this is just a resource. The only reason I sell the book, the only reason I do coaching, the only reason I do these things is because they are resources. My end goal is for everyone in modern society to be happy, because everyone that isn't in modern society is probably healthy. You know, the people living in nature. And the last thing is, videos like these are what changed my health, what made me learn the most. They changed the course of my health journey, and you'll notice it when I go through these things. Now, I think we should begin. You see, as a child, well, it all began with my childhood, really. And it never began with health, it began with wanting muscles. You see, as a young kid, I had lots of pains in my torso, and I've tried recording this video many times, and I realized that when it comes to all of these awful experiences I had as a child, they didn't really influence my decision to be healthy. Not at all, actually. Yeah, I had random pains in my torso, and I had allergies, and I had asthma, and I had this and that, but they weren't related to health. When I've tried making this video, I've realized that I wouldn't have gotten into health if not for YouTube and for bodybuilding, for the interest in becoming stronger. That is ultimately what made me get into health, and we'll get to that in a moment. The reason why I got into bodybuilding, which should be the cornerstone of this conversation because it is what led me to health, they go hand in hand if you really understand what we're talking about here, is because I was a weak kid. I was smaller than the rest. I was bullied in 4th grade, 5th grade, 6th grade, 7th grade, 8th grade, many of the grades really. Then when we got to 9th grade, a few shifts happened and I was not the lowest in the social hierarchy anymore. But anyway, when I was bullied, I was weak. I didn't win arm wrestling fights. I didn't win fights. I was pale. I got sick a lot. My father used to tell me to tug my shirt inside my pants, and the other kids used to make fun of me because they're retarded, really. Kids are retarded. But he used to tell me that if cold air came into, you know, your torso from beneath, you'll get sick, which is total bullshit, of course, because you can do cold exposure outside without a sauna, without any clothes, with very strong winds, and you won't get sick. Again, I've done a lot of cold exposure in that kind of setting that I used to be scared of when I was younger, because of getting sick, of course, without getting sick. So I learned through that, I learned to not trust my parents, because most of our parents don't really know what they're talking about. But now this was a tangent. This being at the bottom of the social hierarchy continued until 7th grade, where I decided that, okay, it's time to build muscle. Because what I had noticed was that everyone respected men with muscles. Everyone did. Everyone looked up to them, and everyone wanted to look like that. From early childhood, we understand that muscles are something that makes a person very valuable in the eyes of others. And they're treated differently. They are much higher in the social hierarchy for biological and social reasons, mainly conceptual reasons. But they tie into biology. So I thought, okay, well, let's build muscle. That was the solution. No, the solution wasn't to become more witty, become better socially, learn how to fight, and then actually fight if I'm ever physically confronted because of, being cocky, which I never was. No. The solution was to build muscles. Of course, I just gave you the solution if you didn't understand that. But anyway, so I looked up how to build muscle. I looked up a bunch of body transformations, a bunch of body weight exercises. I wanted to go to the gym. I wanted to do this. I wanted to do that. And during my research, I came across testosterone. One article said that, okay, if you want to build muscle, increase your testosterone. And then I found this other article, because obviously I wanted to increase testosterone. And what it said in that article was, if you eat sugar, you're going to lower your testosterone. And if you lower your testosterone, you're not going to build muscle. So within a week, I stopped eating sugar. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is why I am excellent health. Alright? That's why I have this channel. Because I did all of these things at the age of 13, 14, 15, 16. I began very young. You know how these professional athletes begin training at a very young age? Well, I did the exact same thing. And that's why I know a lot about health at this age. And that's why I can answer many questions. And thankfully, you're here. You're with me, where you're safe when it comes to health, because I only seek out the truth, and you'll notice that during this entire journey. But anyway, that was the first sort of shift. And then the second shift, and remember, my only goal was to build muscle. The second shift was eating protein-rich foods, because to build muscle, I also understood through reading at that age that you need to eat a lot of protein. And so I remember this meal where my mother used to scramble 4 eggs and give that to me. And I used to eat that, and I tried to eat that every day. And I also told my father to buy something called kvari. And it's sort of a thick yogurt product that's processed, of course, but it contains a lot of protein. It's very protein dense and also low fat, which, yeah, that's a bad thing, but still, I only cared about the protein, so I didn't give a shit if it had a lot of fat or if it had a little fat. And this thing had 16 grams of protein per, I think it was 200 milliliters, volume-wise, and I used to eat that. I tried to eat that every day. And I also had this meal where a third of the plate was tuna, a third of the plate was boiled potatoes chopped up with olive oil and some spices, and then a third of the plate was boiled broccoli, so with salted water, of course. And I used to eat that, and I ate that many times, I believe, during that period where I was 13 to 14, something like that. And generally I adopted a bodybuilding type diet where I was eating a lot of protein and I tried working out as much as I can. And I did see a difference in my body, of course, but I still felt like I was skinny fat. When I was 13, I didn't really have abs, but then suddenly they crept up on me. And by the time I was 14, I had gotten them. And I even have a picture where I'm astonished at how I look in the picture, because I had never ever taken a picture of myself where I actually looked buff or where I had a six-pack. And a six-pack was a really, really, really big deal for me. It was my goal. But then at 14, 15, my goal was facial aesthetics. So the next goal was facial aesthetics, alright? And so what I did was I researched what to do for facial aesthetics. And what I noticed was, okay, you need low body fat. That's it, really. And so we had a school photo at the beginning of each year. And I was beginning 9th grade, and I was 14 because my birthday is in October and we start in August. And so what I did that summer, all the way up to the end of August where we had the photo, is I did a cut. I counted my calories. I became 47 kilos, I believe. I went down in weight a lot. I was like I was 49 kilos. I went down to 46.5, something like that, and I began at 49. So I lost 3 kilos of fat, I believe, and I got pretty lean. But I counted my calories and I ate 1,800 calories every day, consistently. Like, I literally did a cut at 14 years old, which isn't healthy, but still. And I did cardio almost every day. I did HIIT workouts, 8-minute HIIT workouts, where I did, I believe it was 1 minute of one exercise, then 1 minute of another exercise, then 4 different exercises, and then I did that twice. And that was a kind of cardio thingy. And then we have a cardio machine downstairs that goes like this, and then your feet rotate like this. Not like a bicycle, but like a big platformy thing where you're more upright. And I did that every day. And when I took the photo, I noticed that my jaw looked nice, nicer than it had before. And I really felt accomplished. I had done all of this hard work, counting calories every day and doing cardio every day, and my jaw looked nice. But again, none of this had anything to do with health. They had to do with insecurity. And so I continued training, but it was at this point in August 2017, September 2017, and then October, and then November. In October and November, I stumbled upon Vegan Gains. And you might imagine what happened. I mean, I was eating animal products. And what happened is that he said, you don't need animal products to be healthy, and they're actually detrimental. And he showed all of these studies. And I tried to read the abstracts, and I tried to understand them, and they seemed plausible. I couldn't really analyze research at depth. I didn't have this logical thinking ability that I have now, that I apply to this channel, and because of it, you probably benefit a lot from my videos, because I can look at things in ways that many people can't. I have a great pattern recognition ability, especially when it comes to things that are related to health. But I didn't have that at the time, and so I decided that, well, if they're bad for me and I can build muscle without them, well, I want what's best for me, right? I'm the most important thing in the world, and I can't be missing out. This was the next sugar, the next protein, and so I went vegan. So from November 2017 to July 2019, this was my vegan diet. I basically ate 4 slices of some type of bread, standard supermarket bread that was branded as sourdough or rye, with peanut butter, usually organic peanut butter, the good type of stuff that still isn't good because you shouldn't be eating nuts in that quantity, at least with that type of food. You'd need to blend it with raw butter and this and that to neutralize a bunch of things. Ideally, you'd want to do it yourself. You know, make the peanut butter from peanuts that you've sourced yourself. And you shouldn't consume that a lot because the fat ratios are very different from the fat ratios that an animal needs. But anyway, then at lunch I used to eat something with rice and tofu or pasta with vegetables, something like that. Hard to digest, doesn't contain a lot of nutrients, but something like that. My mother used to cook. And then in the evening I used to have a big bowl of oatmeal. You know those rolled oats? I used to pour soy milk or coconut milk on top of that with a little bit of water, a bunch of cinnamon, chia seeds, sesame seeds, flax seeds, coconut oil, soy milk, water, and then vegan protein powder that I bought from My Protein. Very, very disgusting stuff, but when put in there, it was a little bit tolerable. And then eventually I replaced that with just cocoa powder, or cocoa powder as they say in America. Usually I always had cocoa powder, even if I put in the protein, but eventually I just removed the protein and I only had cocoa in there. And that is basically what I ate for the entirety of, that vegan period and beyond. So when I started eating meat in July 2019, I was also eating the bowl of oatmeal in the evening. Now let us jump to that meat period. The reason I started eating meat again was, first of all, my God, I developed crazy acne, crazy bloating, crazy problems everywhere. If you go to my website, you might see a few pictures. You can see my face, you can see how I looked, and then you can also see in a gym selfie how my forehead looked. And those are probably the best pictures that I have. The acne was horrendous, I got skinny, I was pale, my hair was For the first time in my life, I noticed that these triangles over here, they were receding. Now, thankfully, they went back. They became much better after that. I mean, forward. They grew in again. Although it might not look like it. That's pretty good, I would say. I just have a big forehead. Not really. Or, who am I to judge? You can judge. The reason I started eating meat again is because of Frank Tufano. So yes, I had all of these problems, and I wanted a solution to my acne. I really started understanding that this acne is a health problem. I am doing something severely wrong to have this much acne. There is something wrong here. And I also had anxiety and mental problems. And so I started looking elsewhere. I started looking at other sources of information, and I watched Frank Tufano. And he explained that the most nutrient foods are the animal foods. And he showed mathematical proof of this. You can just look at the nutrient density of each food. And so I realized that, well, I mean, is there really a harm in adding a little bit of Parmigiano Reggiano in the diet? No. So I did. I broke my vegan stuff with cheese, I believe. And then I tried eating eggs. I used to eat a lot of eggs when I was young. Boiled eggs, that is, in sandwiches. I ate a boiled egg, and I got the worst allergic reaction I've ever gotten in my life. I mean, nuts are probably worse, but that egg is insane. I must puke out the eggs that I ate. I have severe reactions to eggs because of that vegan period. I don't know what happened, but it happened, okay? Unfortunately. Otherwise, I would be eating raw eggs today. But then in July 2019, and this was like a month prior to me eating meat, I told my father that, okay, I will consider eating meat if we buy some high quality grass-fed meat. So I found a meat supplier on the internet, and I bought 10 kilos of ground beef from them. And I ate that. Or no, sorry, it was 5 kilos. It was 5 kilos of different cuts of meat. We began with a very small order to see if I could handle the meat. And I remember I prepared it myself. I cut up this big hunk of meat into steaks, and unfortunately I grilled it or fried it on the pan with some processed coconut oil. Unfortunately. But I did. And it's over now. I won't use that stuff again. I haven't for many, many years. And I ate it. And I ate the fat cap and the meat, and I sat there and I ate and I ate and I ate. Then afterward, I was trying to see if I would have a reaction or how I would feel or anything like that. I was trying to gauge anything. And I just felt nice. And I really enjoyed the fat, eating the fat. And then slowly, after that, I was eating meat with some sort of vegetable and this oatmeal, this bowl of oatmeal at night, or as the second meal. My acne started to get better and better and better. And then I believe August came around. Yeah, August came around. And I told my father I really need liver, because I understood this connection between acne medicine and vitamin A and acne in general and liver, because liver contains a bunch of vitamin A. So I think I ate 5 kilos of liver that month, because we ordered liver and I wanted to eat it quickly. So I did. And a doctor would say that a human being would probably get vitamin A toxicity from that, but none of us have consumed any vitamin A during our childhoods. So we're empty of vitamin A. Not you, if you have been eating a whole foods diet that is filled with animal foods, then it's not advised to do that. If you have acne, I would advise this, but more slowly, of course, because what I did is probably a little bit not smart, because if you have a weak liver and you can't handle that vitamin A, you will get symptoms. But fortunately, I could handle all of that vitamin A without any problems. Yes, I got no symptoms, and after that month, 90% of my acne went away. I still had pimples here and there, and I used to get pimples for a long period after that. But for the most part, my face started to look alright. My diet after exiting veganism mainly consisted of ground beef. So I took ground beef and then I cooked it in a pot over very low heat And so it's a very weird cooking method that I haven't seen anywhere. But you take the ground beef, you put it in the pot, and then you don't put any oil. And I don't think I seasoned it at this point. I seasoned it later on when it got cooked. But you put it on very low heat so you don't hear any sizzling. And then you put the meat in its place, right? You don't hear any sizzling. And you notice that the bottom is cooked, it got brown. So you flip it, and then you flip it, and then you flip it. And the meat is going to slowly heat up. And the juices are going to come out, and all the red spots within the meat will turn into brown, or grayish brown, depends on the color of the meat, of course. And it cooks, but you cooked it over very low heat. And that is how I used to cook it, because I thought that, well, the less you cook it, the better, because I was already listening to a certain person, and we'll get to that person. And I used to salt it. I used to put salt and black pepper, but then eventually I stopped using salt even when cooking it. This went on from July to November, but again, we haven't finished the meal. So half the plate was ground beef, and the other half was cooked broccoli. So I ate broccoli with ground beef, and that's it. And then my next meal was oatmeal, that big bowl of oatmeal that I was talking about earlier. That is what I ate during this period when exiting veganism. So I kept the bowl of oatmeal, and I was eating the ground beef. Now we're going to go through very interesting things. It was in high school that I started experimenting with lots of fasting. 1 meal a day, 2 meals a day, all of that. A lot of time-restricted eating. And so here's the thing. From July to November 2019, I was eating this kind of diet, where I ate the first meal, ground beef with broccoli, and then the next meal, oatmeal. But during this time too, I came home from school at 4 to 5 o'clock, and that was my first meal. So I wasn't eating anything in the morning, and you have to realize that I was 16/17 during this time. And so that means that I was eating far less than I should, which didn't end up affecting me a whole lot because I wasn't hungry during the day. My body adapted, and so I ate more later in the day. Even when I was doing 1 meal a day, I ate a lot in one sitting. I can't even eat that much in one sitting anymore because, again, I've split the meals up to 2 to 3 meals. I'm eating much smaller meals now. But good God, I don't know how my digestive system was even handling that. It was handling that because in November 2019, after having listened to a life-changing video, this video was taken down by YouTube, but when I made a video about this person, the video was still there. But you can find it, it's not the exact same video, it's split up into 3 videos, it's another lecture, and I'll link it in the description. There is still a channel that has these lectures uploaded. This person is Aajonus Vonderplanitz, and this person unlocked raw animal products. So you've got the world of animal products. You've got eggs and milk and meat and all of this, right? There's another side to it if you're interested in health that has been utilized for many, many years, even in the Ayurvedic circles, which are supposedly vegetarian, but even in the Ayurvedic circles in India, they've used raw meat for thousands of years. Funnily enough, many cultures have used raw meat. It is known for its healing properties. It's just a food that is lost in modern society. It's disguised as sushi, steak tartare, and carpaccio. But general consumption outside of restaurants isn't encouraged. But in restaurants, it's still there because some people still want to eat it. That's a good thing, by the way, because it helps normalize raw animal products. But again, I listened to Aajonus Vonderplanitz during this lecture, and what happened was he was so convincing, so incredibly convincing, that I decided to try it out. Because you have to realize, I did this fasting, the veganism, and this and that, for one reason only. I wanted health. I've always wanted health. I don't care about the diet, I don't care about the details. I only care about health. What makes me healthy is what I'm going to do. And that is it. And by doing a lot of things and evaluating them, you eventually realize the common pattern that is in all of these things. And so, again, he was so convincing, his story was so convincing that I tried animal products in their raw state for the first time in November 2019. And I remember I had put spices into the straight cut of meat that I had cut up, and I was supposed to cook it, but then when no one was looking in the kitchen, because I have parents that are pretty sensitive to that stuff, not anymore because of me, of course, I've been eating it for a while now, but they were. They still are to some degree. They think a demon has possessed me. I took a piece and I said to myself, okay, if I get sick, then he's not right. And the governments are right, and they're right about bacteria, basically, and he's wrong. But if I don't get sick after doing this, then there's something to this. So I took a bite, and 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 it was delicious, actually. It was delicious. Not the spices. The spices were like an extra thing. They were like separate from the raw meat. The raw meat itself was the thing that was nice. And I ate it, and then I woke up the next day. And I didn't cook it, by the way, that day. I just said that I wasn't really hungry, but I had eaten. And I woke up the next day and had so much energy. I said, holy shit. I don't know if it was the raw meat. Maybe it wasn't. I don't know. Might have been another factor. But anyway, I ate it and I felt really great. And I knew that I wanted more of it. Imagine a cooked fruit in comparison to a raw fruit. It's basically the same thing, but you have only eaten cooked meat maybe. So you don't know about raw meat. But raw meat is like eating a raw fruit. The difference is the same. It's very hard to describe, but it's raw. Now the next step was to try it with ground beef, because here's the thing. Ground beef is what was available to me the most. Straight cuts are more expensive, so I can't be eating raw meat with straight cuts only. I wanted to eat raw meat with ground beef too, because Aajonus said that, well, doesn't really matter really. Everything is safe, even raw chicken. And I said, okay, Mr. Aajonus, let me try this. So my last time cooking the ground beef with the broccoli, and I had removed broccoli at this point, by the way, because of Aajonus, I believe. I was only eating the ground beef because I realized that the calories and the nutrition were coming from the ground beef. The broccoli was just some extra thing that was taking time. So I removed it and I felt like there was no difference. Because I even looked at my bowel movements and there was no difference when I removed the cooked broccoli. So I said, all right, now let's try the raw ground beef. And now I was really scared because society tells you that if you ground the raw beef, then the bacteria are going to be on the inside because everything is going to mix in. It's not just on the surface. So I said, okay, let's try this. And again, either the World Health Organization is correct and all the governments are correct, or this person who supposedly cured his cancer is correct. So I tried it. And I didn't get sick. And I had cooked all of this ground beef. So I ate it, and then the next time I was supposed to cook ground beef, I said, no, let's do this. I took ground beef, I mixed in garlic and spices that supposedly kill bacteria, and I ate a bowl of that. And it was nice. And the next day I didn't get sick. 2 days didn't get sick, so I continued eating it. Day after day after day. And then I removed the spices, removed the garlic, and eventually I was just eating the raw ground beef by itself. And this was frozen raw ground beef, by the way. And even that didn't give me any problems, interestingly enough. At this point, I started looking much better. My acne got much, much better, and you know, my face changed. I started looking better. I was still pale and all, but I started looking better. Now, the step was to remove oatmeal. But I didn't do this for a reason, and it was the bodybuilding stuff in my head. You see, I was still going to the gym at this point. In the summer, between the second and the third year, I stopped going to the gym. But at this point, in November, December, January, February 2019 and 2020, you know, that switch in the years, I was concerned about calories because I was concerned about bodybuilding still. I wanted to look a certain way. So I didn't want to remove my bowl of oatmeal because I knew that it was a big source of calories. And I thought about, you know, eating meat twice, but I thought, okay, that's gonna be more expensive, so I can't do that, and I will lose calories. So I can't do that. I really told myself that I can't do that. In February, or maybe January, I don't remember, I think it was January, I got raw milk. I got raw milk from a farm. It was a very complicated process. It was through a Facebook group, and I had to go to some sketchy parking lot where there were a bunch of middle-aged people who had ordered bread and certain vegetables and things from farms. I went there after school and got 2 bottles of raw milk. And I decided that we're not going to eat oatmeal anymore. We're going to consume the raw milk instead. And I decided to get the raw milk because of all of this stuff that Aajonus was saying. I drank it and I got a little bit of a allergic reaction. The same one that I got with the eggs, but much milder. But it was still pretty hard. I mean, I still got an itchy throat and itchy ears, and my eyes got a little bit watery. It was unpleasant. So I didn't drink any more of it. And so I left the second bottle below some chair next to the fridge. It became raw fermented milk. And I drank that. And that still gave me an allergic reaction. So I said bye-bye to raw milk for the time being. And my diet at this point, after having tried the raw milk, had removed the bowl of oatmeal. So for many years I had eaten this goddamn bowl of oatmeal. But finally I had removed it. And you have to realize something. Now the diet didn't consist of any carbohydrates. So I went into ketosis for the first time of my life. And good God, becoming fat adapted? I think it took 3 weeks. I was fasting too. I think it was Ramadan. I was religious at the time. I believed things. And I was doing it together with the raw meat. And good God, I was so tired those weeks. Not because of the fasting, but because of the lack of carbohydrates. But then after a while, after 3 weeks, I adapted and everything was alright. But now I was eating one big meal of raw meat every day. And that did work. It did work, and I was eating cheese with it. And it was also at this period where I found raw butter in a certain store and I started consuming it. So I dramatically increased my raw fat intake shortly after, listening to Aajonus and trying to find all the foods that he was talking about and eating raw meat. Shortly after starting to eat raw meat, I increased my raw fat intake. And it was very beneficial. It's one of the best things I've done from a dietary perspective. The best thing was raw meat. The second best thing was raw milk. And the third best thing was dramatically increasing the fat, so raw butter. And those are the staple 3 of the raw primal diet, I would say. I'd also like to mention that at this point, for the first time in many years, my face was clear. And it felt amazing. Because prior to that, I had looked at my face in the mirror and I had a bunch of acne. But now, it was clear. It was very clear. And that was also due to the fasting. I noticed that if I ate more than once or twice a day, I got breakouts because of detoxification to some degree. But at this point, no acne. And for the first time in many, many years, I felt attractive. And the boost that had on my mental health, on the way I carried myself socially, was absolutely amazing. Like, it's that experience of clearing up the acne, and of course that comes with other benefits that are related to the digestive system, that are related to everything basically, because if you remove the acne on the face, you've removed a lot of the degeneration. But that's why I got so into health after this point, so into wanting to know what the truth is, because I realized that this stuff that you watch on YouTube, that you read about, that you implement, it has such a weight on your life, and it could influence so many people. Remember, I couldn't see my face prior to this point. I couldn't see it. So when I lost the acne, imagine a father seeing his son after 3 years of not seeing his son. That is how I felt. But I hadn't seen my face in 3 years. It was myself who I hadn't seen for 3 years. Imagine that. Because I remember waking up and looking at my face, and I would say to myself, this little patch where there's no acne, I wish the rest of my face could look like that. I wish I could see my face without acne. I wish I could look in the mirror and actually see my face, because this is not my face. Seriously. If there's something that could motivate you to really change your life, it is to see your face in the mirror again. And so, I don't even know what to say. Aajonus is a genius. And if you try out his nutritional ideas, I think you'll benefit, because they're based on very solid stuff. from an anthropological perspective, and from a chemistry perspective. So basically nutrition. Nutrition is all of those combined. This continued, and I was eating 1 meal a day during the summer. So before the summer I was eating raw meat here and there, but then I made it 1 meal a day. It was half a kilo of raw ground beef together with butter, no raw milk by the way at this point, raw cheese, raw salted cheese, brie or Appenzeller, usually those two. And I ate a bunch of watermelon, because at this point I started to realize that water wasn't really sitting well with me. So I started hydrating from watermelon. I became a little bit addicted to it. And I ate a bunch of raw honey. But raw honey doesn't sit well with me. But it did at that time. Not really. But here's what I noticed during this period. The watermelon and the honey were causing a bunch of glycation. So I stopped them. Watermelon is a very high sugar fruit. And the honey, it's supposed to not give you sugar problems. But for me, it does. It made my skin crusty. The glycation was too much. I'd also like to mention that during this summer, I ate raw chicken. So the summer of 2020. After having eaten, the watermelon and all of this, I also ate raw chicken. And I ate it like KFC, and I wasn't even scared of getting anything really. Because of the raw ground beef experience, because I had eaten it for a long time, and because I had listened to so much of Aajonus stuff. But during that summer I ate a bunch of those kinds of things really. And then fast forward, I was basically eating the same thing in the winter, but without the watermelon and this and that. I also removed, I didn't remove, but I was eating grapes during this period too. I ate a lot of grapes, and I was drinking some fruit juice that was raw. I didn't make it myself. We have a brand in Sweden, but it's not organic and it wasn't plastic, and so obviously I don't consume it now. And so I was eating dates during that winter, I remember, the 2020 winter. Yeah, I ate dates every day with raw butter, and something that happened was I started thinking of the raw butter as expensive, as not worth it. So I thought, okay, well, let's eat locally. So I got organic cream that was pasteurized, and I made butter from it. And I did that for a while, and then fast forward to, I believe it was February 2021, I ate my last cooked meal. I cooked a meal because I was interested in the effects of meat on consciousness, because these Indian boys, these Ayurveda boys, and the Hindus, they say that if you eat meat, that will hinder spiritual progress and you should eat a sattvic diet. And so I wanted to try that out, because this was my Eckhart Tolle period where I was very peaceful. It was basically rice and vegetables, felt no difference really, except that the meal was pretty nice. Won't deny that. I cooked it really well. That's probably the best meal I've ever cooked. And funnily enough, it was my last cooked meal. Until now, at least. I am eating cooked starch, which I'll get to, because we're going to talk about what I currently do too. But so I ate that, and I was drinking this, and making butter from this pasteurized cream. And then I watched a video by Sverige, or Sverige as you like to call him. And he said that it was dead, that anything pasteurized is dead. And I related it to the way the raw butter tastes and how the pasteurized butter and the pasteurized cream tastes. And I thought, shit, this guy is right. I'm doing something bad here. I shouldn't be doing this. The cooked fat resins are going to store in my body. It's just that I am not noticing it because I'm young and I haven't eaten it for a long period. So I thought, okay, let's go back to raw butter. And so I did that. And I started eating basically raw meat and raw butter, and that's it. And then in March, I remember we found a new meat company to order from. And we had to take our order, we had to receive our order at a farm. And we went to this farm, and it was really cold and snowy. And when we got there, we got our meat order, but the farmer was there, and I asked, is there any way for a private consumer to buy raw milk? And she said, well, bring a bucket. And I said, yes. And so in the journey, this was my second raw milk experiment. And so I get it home, I drink it fresh, and I get a little bit of an allergic reaction. So I say, okay, let's let it ferment and see what happens. I let it ferment, then I consumed it, and I got a little bit of an allergic reaction, but then I noticed that no, I can handle this. And so the next few glasses I got no allergic reaction. And my digestion got a lot better, because at this period my digestion had gotten a little bit shit. I don't know why, but when I consumed raw meat I used to get nauseous and it didn't digest very well. But with the raw milk, all of this went away. And I got really addicted to the raw milk because of the bacteria. And because my body was craving it. It really needed something that was in there. And so I kept consuming it and consuming it and consuming it. And whenever I didn't have raw milk, I obviously wanted to hydrate from something, so I ate tomatoes. And the more this went on, the better my digestive system got. And then fast forward to 2022, I stopped the butter, I switch to raw beef fat. That goes all right. I continue with the diet. I don't really eat a lot of fruit. So the diet was the same in 2021 as it was in 2022. And then in 2023, now I've started experimenting with cooked starch and more fruit. And that has generally been better. Yeah, that's basically it. That's what I consume. Alright, we're almost finished. I'm just going to go through my supplement usage. And by the way, you have a really great attention span throughout the journey. And we're going to go through general principles, as I promised in the beginning. In 2018, I stumbled upon a guy called Nether Beast, or he's also known as Bogey Eisen. That's his real name. His name is Bogey. So I'll refer to him as Bogey because it's more natural. He was a bodybuilder. He cared about strength, but he also cared about health. His main things were coffee enemas, supplements, and a plant-based diet. That is really what he did. And he was centered around detoxification. His health protocol was centered around taking stuff and not really about the environment that you're in or the specifics of your nutritional protocol. But anyway, I got influenced by him. Of course, I was a vegan and I was bodybuilding, so he fit into that category perfectly, and he influenced me into taking iodine and vitamin D3 and K2 and all of this. Now, if I remember correctly, the only thing that actually made a difference was the K2. I felt like when I consumed a bunch of vitamin K2 in supplement form, my nails got stronger, and I felt like I was less prone to injury when training. That's all I felt, really. All the other supplements that I've ever taken have done nothing. The iodine did nothing, the D3 did nothing, the B12 did nothing. None of the supplements I ever took did anything, and that is because supplements don't work. I've already made a video about this. Some supplements do work because they contain substances that your body can utilize, but it always comes at a cost because these are processed pharmaceuticals. They're not natural things. We can't handle them perfectly, and they contain a bunch of additives and chemicals. Speaking of pharmaceuticals, I just quickly want to mention that I stopped taking all pharmaceuticals at 15. I used to take allergy medication for certain things. You know, when I consumed a certain thing, even when I was vegan, it might have contained, let's say, a seed that didn't sit well with me. I used to take allergy medication, antihistamine medication. I used to get these, I don't even know how to explain it. They were red and white dots that just formed on my stomach, and I used to take antihistamine medication for them. I also used to take paracetamol if I thought I was going to get sick. Again, I was retarded at this age. But at 15, I stopped all of that, and that's a really good thing to do when it comes to health, to stop all of that unnecessary pharmaceutical usage, because it really, really taxes your organs. Don't do it. It's just, you're just swallowing pollution, really. If it's not absolutely necessary, avoid it at all costs. And if you don't understand why, I have an entire section in my book, and I might make this a free sample chapter, and I might upload it to my YouTube channel, you know, from the 6 Health Commandments. I stopped all supplements in 2020 because I read about what Aajonus had to say in the matter, and the fish oil that I was taking is basically processed. The K2 is not K2, the D3 is not D3, so I just stopped taking them because they're not the real thing. The real thing can only be gotten from food or the sun. By the way, when I went full raw primal in 2021, February 2021, I also stopped the salt consumption. So the salted cheese, I stopped that. I don't do this, and I didn't do this because I am a raw primal fanatic or because I'm in love with Aajonus Vonderplanitz. I just recognize that many of the things that he says do work, and many of his nutritional philosophies are very, very good and very, very healthy, and that's why I do them. Everything that you might associate with my modern teachings started in February 2021, at least from a nutritional perspective. And then when it comes to a environmental perspective, that began in 2022, when I really started taking the summer seriously. Let me be specific. In 2020, I understood that you need to get vitamin D3 from the sun. You have to be out in the sun. You have to expose large parts of your body to the sun when the UV index is high, and so on and so forth. That was the limit of my understanding during 2020. But then in 2022, I really thought that getting sun and grounding was important, extra important, because when I was writing the book, The 6 Health Commandments, during that summer, I really understood what health is. I figured it out. And now, my friend, here are the lessons that I learned during this very, very long journey. Lesson 1. You're probably wrong about many things. Don't identify with anything. So what do I mean by this? Well, you know how vegans think they've found the answer and how they feel like veganism is a part of themselves? In reality, nothing is a part of yourself. There is no self to begin with. But anyway, if you think like this, if you identify with what you eat, or if you think that you found the answer, you're very, very not likely to change. And if you don't change, you won't learn. That's the problem. The only way to learn is through experimentation, and we'll get to that. Lesson 2. All foods have positive and negative aspects. This is something that I really started to understand once I made that video about a balanced diet. I was thinking about only making a video about, why a balanced diet is not optimal, because it doesn't address anything from a nutrition perspective. Your diet should satisfy nutrient density, no negative aspects in general. It shouldn't satisfy eating foods from any food groups, because that doesn't necessarily mean that you're getting a lot of nutrients. Again, vegans can eat foods from all food groups except the food group of animal products. Can they have a balanced diet? Yeah, sure, because they're eating a lot of food groups. But are they healthy? No, because they're missing out on a lot of nutrients. You see, when you look at all the food groups, most of the nutrients are in the animal group. So if you only eat animal products, for some people that is an adequate diet. Are they eating a balanced diet? No. Are they healthy? Yes. So a balanced diet doesn't really mean anything. It has nothing to do with nutrition. It is just something that people who don't know anything about health say to other people when, they want to give advice, when they want to talk. Especially my mother, and my father, by the way. And your parents too, probably. Lesson 3. Don't stop learning. You can only learn through experimentation. So again, don't stop learning. Don't think that once you've read Aajonus Vonderplanitz's books that you're set for life. No, you're not. You have many things to learn. There are many things that can be beneficial to understand, and they'll help you be more, not disciplined, but more motivated to do certain things that you might not think are as good for you as they actually are. As an example, if you don't know about grounding or earthing, you won't do it. But once you read about the science, which is in my book, by the way, then you'll do it. Because now you understand. Again, I've made a video about this. It's called How to Become Really Healthy. The first part of health is to understand, because without understanding, you won't be motivated to do anything. If you don't understand why you're doing something, why would you do it? If you thought that eating would kill you, or if you didn't think about eating at all, then why would you eat? It wouldn't even occur to you that you can eat. Do you understand what I mean? You have to understand that I need to eat when I feel this feeling. That's how it works. So, likewise, you need to understand something from a health perspective for it to be able to be implemented into your life, because you have to make that distinction. And you can only learn through experimentation. So many people like to do the same thing every day. And I'm a victim of this, or not a victim. I am a perpetrator of this. But seriously, you have to change the things that you do. Change them often. Include tomatoes, include cucumbers. Eat this type of meat instead. Do this and do that. Try fasting. Do a goddamn juice fast if you want to. I don't care. Try dry fasting. Do a bunch of experiments to understand what a certain thing does to you. And then you can also read about it. Because if you don't experiment, you won't learn. Because look, you might think that if you read a book or you read a study or several studies or articles or you watch YouTube videos that you're learning, and sure, you are learning to some degree, but you have to implement these things. The only way of actually truly understanding something or having true knowledge about something that is useful to you is by doing the thing, trying it out, and then seeing what happens. The reason I have such an easy time answering your comments, is because when someone tells me, oh, what do you think about fasting? When I was 15, 16, 17, I did long periods of OMAD, 48-hour fasts, 175-hour fast. I've also done dry fasting, the Ramadan stuff. I've done that because of my past. Lesson number 4. Make sure you discover what health is. You see, this is something that I discovered when I was writing my book. Originally, I just wanted my book to be a summary of all of the things that I have learned. And it was, again, supposed to be that way. But when I was writing the book, I realized that I had just found out what health is. And I was pretty excited, because this meant that I can apply this principle on anything that I want to investigate, really. Anything from a health perspective, any food, any nutritional protocol, any environmental factor, anything really, anything when it comes to health. And what I'm saying is, you don't have to buy my book. You can discover this for yourself, but it will take intelligence, and it will take thinking, and it will take evaluating all of the things that actually are important when it comes to health and all of the things that aren't important. And making these distinctions, well, if it took me, let's see, 7 to 8 years, 7 years. If it took me 7 years, well, it might not occur to you in your first 3 years of, researching health or experimenting from a health perspective. So if you buy the book, voila, you get it much quicker. If you enjoyed this video, I want you to do 2 things. Number 1, like the video and comment for the YouTube algorithm. That's how it works. If you want me to be even more motivated to make these videos that might change many people's lives, including yours, then like the video and comment and do all of these things that help the video. Because then I'll be happy when I look at the analytics, and I'll continue making the same types of videos. And the second thing is, show me that you like longer videos. If you like longer videos that are filled with information, because again, if I talk for 10 minutes, that's a certain amount of information. If I talk for 20 minutes, that's probably going to be double the information. Honestly speaking, that's just the nature of the way I make these videos. So if you like these kinds of videos that are very long, tell me so that I can make long videos. And with that said, go and achieve excellent health. I know you can do it.